By the power vested in me by my instructors Ann Moon and Barbara Bones, and their instructors before them in Kajukenbo, I now promote you to the rank of Orange Belt, to hold and wear, with compassion, among the same.
I started training at 7-Star because I wanted to learn some self-defense, and I never really saw myself as a martial artist. And I have really become a bigger person and a stronger person, and I know this sounds cliche, but a better person.
That's the great thing. When you meet women who've done martial arts, for whatever reason that motivated them to start, for whatever reason they stayed in and got bruised and hurt or injured or failed tests or passed tests or just thought they could never do something and found themselves doing it. If they've trained, I know what they've got, and I'm proud to have been a part of making that happen. Especially in a lineage where it's not about books or watching videos, or it's like doing it. You only get it by doing it, and you only learn it by watching somebody else do it. It's very cool that way. I feel like what I started is still going. It means a lot to me that there's childcare, that it's still women's only school, that the testing is still severe, but that it's also supportive. Yeah. So the Kajukenbo system's a good system, and I think that what women have done with Kajukenbo is very good, and I'm proud to be one of those women.
My relationship with 7-Star, of course, began with the founder, Ann Moon. Ann Moon was my direct student in Eugene and received her first degree and second degree black belt from me. And there came a point when a few of my black belts decided to move to other cities and begin their own clubs. And Ann is one of those people who did that, and that's the birth of 7-Star. And then I came to know Michelle, obviously, through her relationship with Ann. And when Ann made a decision to leave the school, then that's the point at which Michelle and I became more in the student-teacher relationship.
I know that 7-Star means a lot of things to a lot of people, but to me, 7-Star has actually been something that has structured my entire adult life. Having a women-only space to train, I think, has made me a different person than if I had trained in a mixed school. Passing on strength and confidence to women became not just a goal of mine, but sort of a campaign. And seeing women find that community and not only grow in confidence because of their training, but because they have all that support around them, has made a huge difference, and it's made me want to keep 7-Star thriving. There are not that many schools that include self-defense in the curriculum. I think probably all women-only schools do. 7-Star has always included self-defense in the curriculum. Stop! The reason that we've continued doing it is that we feel that a lot of our martial arts training is based on personal defense. So what's lacking in a regular martial arts curriculum is practical self-defense, like verbal self-defense and information about who your attacker is, things that you would get in a regular self-defense class. So we choose to include some of that, to incorporate some of that information, to test people on it. So we're sure that we're not sending people out into the world thinking they're confident of defending themselves. And in reality, they can spar, but they can't actually defend themselves because they don't know what the primary targets are or what techniques would actually work against a true attacker on the street. Let go! People always ask me, have you ever had to use your self-defense? And they ask other students that same question. Let go! Let go! Let go! As far as martial artists using their self-defense, what I discovered, and I think is true for all women who train, the more you train, the more confident you get. You carry yourself differently, and people no longer attack you. So the more self-defense you know, the less likely you're going to have to use it. My current teacher is Barbara Bones, who was Ann Moon's teacher. So when Ann Moon stopped training, I officially became Barbara Bones' student, and she's the one who tested and promoted me to second degree. But I had been training with Barbara, with Sigong Barbara, since I was first. An orange belt was the first time I ever took a class from her, and I used to travel down to California to train with her from time to time, and then she actually lived in Seattle for several years, and she sat on the board for my brown and black belt test, my first degree black belt test.
Michelle's a great student, and I think one of her strongest things is the strength of her mind and her focus, her concentration, brings a lot of perfection to her technique. And even during the years when she was still training with Ann Moon, she, at times we would consult about the technique, and she had just the right instincts from day one. And I mean, that was the main thing I encouraged her to do, to follow her instincts, because her instincts were really very precise and appropriate for the art.
After I got my black belt in 1989, Ann Moon took a one-year sabbatical, and she asked me if I wanted to be acting head instructor or head instructor while she was gone. And of course I said acting head instructor because I was not prepared to be in charge of anybody.
When I stepped down for that year, when I came back, it was just really clear that Michelle was holding things together in a really good way, and wanted to do it, had the drive to do it, the consistency and the wherewithal.
So she was gone for a whole year, during which time I could not remember the middle of Pinion 12 that I was teaching Julie Kirby, so she had to wait till Ann Moon got back, and I have never forgotten that part since, but I could not come up with it while she was gone and had no one to ask. She came back and she asked me if I wanted to be co-head instructors, and I said yes, so we were co-head instructors. She decided to stop taking students at that point, so she was going to bring to black belt all of the students she was already committed to, but I would be the teacher of all the new students coming in, and I would bring them to black belt. So in 1995, Ann Moon completed that task of promoting to black belt the last of her students, and she stopped training. So in 1995, I officially became the head instructor of 7-Star. So in Kajukenbo, orange belt means that you, even though you are scared of performing in front of people, you get up and you do your test and you stand up there and you get through it. Purple and blue belt, intermediate ranks, you start to get tested a little bit more for your endurance, and we ask you to up your level of intention and deal with more intention. So that really starts to change a person. Once they've tested that second and third time, you can really see someone sort of settling into believing that they're a martial artist. Green belt, for me and for many people, is totally transformative because we try to set up the test so that endurance and will are truly tested. So the board is pushing you to a place that you think that your limit is here, and the board pushes you past that limit that you've self-subscribed to that actually isn't your edge. Brown belt is, as we always say, it's you know all the material in the art of Kajukenbo. But really what it is us testing your understanding of the art. How do you generate power in this technique? Why would you use those hand techniques to those targets and not to another target? Can you come up with 3 different responses to the same self-defense grab to show that you have versatility under pressure? So brown belt really is the threshold of being tested for black belt, where you're tested, your character is tested, your will is tested once again in a big way, and you're basically saying, I'm going to stand up and model the art of Kajukenbo, and my teacher is saying that she believes I can go off into the world and represent her. Martial arts is transformative to women, and my favorite example is Lisa Watkins, whose parents came to every one of her tests and would speak out loud at the feedback session about how much they'd seen her change. And we watched the transformation as well, but for them, having known her since she was a child, it was amazing to listen to how proud they were of who she was becoming and who she became. There are other students at 7-Star who have changed as remarkably as that. Allison, we also like to tease Allison because in her beginner cycle, we would have picked her out as someone who would never have continued after the beginner cycle, and then now she's a second, third degree black belt in the school. So, I mean, of my students. When I got my black belt, I just thought, well, I'm going to come, like every time I tested, I would just come back to class the next day. Right. And so for me, it's not as profound a marker as other people found them to be. Like I dragged my feet before every test. Like I didn't want to test till I was like way beyond ready. So I end up not testing my students till they're way beyond ready, which is total projection. But it's because, to me, it's the journey through the art. One of the things I loved about 7-Star and hated about 7-Star was the diversity of the teaching staff and never knowing who was teaching when I showed up. But in the end, I appreciated that, and so I've kept that same plan, where at the teachers' meetings we decide who's going to teach, but we don't post it anywhere. And I think one of the strengths of 7-Star is the diversity of our teaching staff. So we have teachers who have different strengths, different body types, different ideas about how to run a class, but we meet so frequently that we try to make sure that we're teaching a unified curriculum and a unified system. But the fact that we have such diverse opinions, it means that we're going to cover a lot more areas. So Kate can work us out aerobically to music, the entire class. And Carolyn can methodically march us through our techniques. And I think that Jordan is following in my footsteps in trying to analytically express the art and get us to do that. Allison has become an incredible teacher. She comes up with ideas that I would not dream of, and she also makes us work out really hard. And Michelle Pleasant, of course, makes us work out harder than we often want to. And is also really good at coming up with exercises out of the blue that combine thoughts and esoteric ideas that we never would have thought of. And Michelle Miller has the skill from her teaching Pilates and dance to have us analyze how we're moving in stances across the floor. And Teresa, when she teaches, can do that same thing. So we're gifted by having both of them being able to make us aware of how we're moving our bodies and teach us the proper ways of alignment, things that I don't know. So I learn from Michelle Miller every time I take a class from her. I don't know how I got power. I actually don't. I mean, it seems like I don't have a lot to say about it because I didn't have power at my first degree black belt test, and then I gradually got it, and it's like it was not like a big event. It was just slowly over time, and it is one of the other mysteries of, you know, how do you teach that to people? Yeah. And my way of figuring out is to teach them body connection, right, so they can feel it. And I think that was probably what happened to me, is I finally had enough body connection that I was generating power.
I feel like since I started training at 7-Star, I have discovered resources and strengths within me that I totally didn't know that I had. So it's a really exciting thing to be able to access, you know, belief that I am worth protecting, belief that I have power within me to do it, and I feel very capable and confident, my physical self, in ways that I never have before, and that spills out into my life in tons and tons of ways.
When I think about intention, I think about meaning what I do and choosing it deliberately and putting my mind and my body together to make something happen. It happens a lot in training that you have an opportunity to use intention in a very deliberate and precise way. Throwing a punch with purpose and being able to control how it impacts the person that you're punching is intention. Being able to do a form and visualize your attackers that are imaginary to the rest of the world, and having the techniques seem real because they are real to you, because you're putting intention into it. And if there were people there, you can make a difference in their lives by what you're doing. Intention out in the world beyond training is about doing things with purpose and not having accidental encounters that could damage other people around you, and being purposeful about how you interact and the words you choose and the choices you make.
I guess I'll talk about grace because I think that that's something that we don't really talk a lot about in training. And for me, what that really represents is how one holds themselves and how they conduct themselves throughout their training. And that could be how they take a test and the politeness they might use. It also could be how they carry their physical body. But I think for me, it just really means like the wholeness of their training, how they come to class, how they approach their training, how they carry themselves in their body, and how they carry themselves spiritually is what is important to me. I think it comes naturally to some people, but for most of us, it's something that we strive for. And for me, it's a representation of our highest potential.
One of the things that makes Seven Star feel like such a strong community is the fact that we ask people to participate to whatever degree they can. And a lot of people have a lot of time, and we have an incredible variety of skills that people bring to Seven Star. The fact that it's democratically run means that students are asked to, from white belt, if they have the time and the inclination, to take a part in governance. And it brings a sense of ownership that otherwise wouldn't be there if it was top-down government only. And it is true that the teachers do run the school in a big sense because they are deciding the curriculum. But I've watched white and orange belts get onto the steering committee and suddenly take a whole new attachment to the school because of that role. I think the other thing that helps people feel attached to Seven Star is the fact that we got 501c3 nonprofit status, so they can feel that it's not only a good organization but a good cause, because our intention to teach self-defense and martial arts to women